Have you heard of Kyrgyzstan, a country landlocked in Central Asia? I only knew it was a part of the Soviet Union. I assumed some nomadic tribes live in yurts and heard that it's filled with incredible lush mountains. This summer it was time to find out. I journeyed off the beaten path through the country to reach a remote Soviet ghost town on the border with China. This is what I discovered.
Good morning from the capital city of Bishkek here in Kyrgyzstan. Today we're going on a proper journey since we haven't done one since Colombia. The mission is to reach an industrial ghost town near the border with China. It will take 3 days for this adventure, and on the way we will stop at the legendary and the largest lake in Kyrgyzstan, also the alleged space landing of the Gagarin's capsule. I have no idea how we're going to reach these places, but this is part of the adventure. Поехали! Здравствуйте, один билет Balikchi, можно? The first leg of the journey, we're taking a marshutka, which is a minibus full of people. It costs about $3 for a 3-hour ride. I got the front seat here with the boys. It's much better than sitting in the crowded.
The ride in the marshutka was comfortable. After about an hour, I noticed that we are driving along the Kazakhstan border. The water canal to the left served as the divider. Then we entered the transit zone where part of the road fell into the neighboring territory, but it was fenced off on both sides. As we got closer, the weather got worse and the driver decided to take a break.
Well, we just stopped for a 10-minute break about 15 minutes out from town, which doesn't make sense, but that's the usual thing. Look at the mountains. Wonderful, deserted mountains. Let me show you what they're selling here. They have the local pastries, such as hot dogs, cheese bread, even pizza, everything is here. Looks delicious, I already had 2 of them.
In the last 30 minutes to go, the driver decided to tell me about his family and the life story. 185 kilometers later, we had to part ways and say our goodbyes.
Все, спасибо большое. Welcome to Balikchi. That was a 3-hour ride. We're going to find my friend who ditched me, and he's somewhere here enjoying his time at the lake. Look who it is! Look who it is, bro! The myth, the legend, the ditcher, the guy who left me 2 hours before this morning because he was impatient, you know? Italians don't have
How
this.
could I not be impatient? Look at this,
Wow.
This is amazing. I just bought an ice cream for 50 freaking euro cent. Can you imagine? It was raining like madness up until like half an hour ago.
You're not wet, bro?
Yeah. I found shelter somewhere.
Balikchi might seem like a small town, but in fact, it has 50,000 population. And 500 years ago, during the Great Silk Road, this was a major hub, because after this, it's a treacherous road all the way to China. Issyk-Kul is the 10th largest lake in the world, and what's interesting that it's an endorphic lake. That means that it receives water, but it outflows to nowhere. In fact, 118 rivers flow into this lake, and what happens after it, the water diverts. How you feeling, bro?
Feels good. This beach is crazy. It's probably a few people here and there. There was a drunk babushka roaming around.
That's random.
Yeah.
The drunk babushka that Davida was talking about had returned, and for some reason he wanted to continue chatting with her.
Деньги надо.
Деньги.
Деньги дай.
Давайте, хотите, мы вам купим кушать что-то. Самолет? Или автомат? Что?
We couldn't chill too long on the beach talking with the drunk babushka, because until next destination we still had 3 to 4 hours to go.
We are once again at a bus station and we're going to Barscon. Dave Legenda has decided to take this car, so we're going with this one, but I told him it's going to take much longer than usual, but he doesn't believe me.
At the bus station we found the only man with a Russian Lada, and Davida really wanted to experience this. We agreed on $45 to take us to Barscon, so we hopped in the car and off we went.
While we are on this treacherous road, let me give you a little tour of the car. Of a Zhiguli that was built in the year 2000. Here we have some family portrait, Here's 520, not sure what that reference is. Luckily it's not 420. Some Kyrgyz hat. And then he's a collector of money. Dollar, euros, Russian ruble. What are your first impressions of this, man?
I mean, it's both good news and bad news that we managed to find a Lada. Obviously, the good part is that it's a Lada, but the bad part is also that it's a Lada, right? I mean, it's quite the experience.
We made a little stop here because the village is named after Karl Marx, which is the godfather of the communist ideology. This is quite special because majority of the post-Soviet countries, they want to forget about that past for some reason. But here in Kyrgyzstan, you will find villages, street names, and so on, named after those leaders.
Actually, as we kept driving, Karl Marx was not the only related communist city. We also passed Bolshevik and Pobieda, which translates to victory. No wonder Kyrgyzstan is named the last Soviet corner in Central Asia.
Our second stop where we're going to spend the night is Barscon. It took us 3 hours to get here, and now we're going to explore an abandoned sanatorium where Yuri Gagarin stayed with other astronauts as well after their flight to Cosmos. Well, we reached the sanatorium that served the military personnel during the Soviet Union, and it still is operating today. We didn't find an abandoned buildings here because Mr. Legenda did his research pretty bad, and the girls told me that the buildings have been destroyed. So the only thing that we can find here that's interesting is this statue of a military man. Looks like Stalin, by the way. So don't ever trust Italians on research. What an impressive nature it is. It looks like it's the Alps of Kyrgyzstan. And look what we found, a really magnificent and spectacular sculpture of Yuri Gagarin's face inside of a helmet. So the sanatorium that we visited earlier, it was a place for the cosmonauts to relax after their flights to Cosmos. But there's another legend which is highly doubtful. It states that when Gagarin was flying back inside of a capsule, he ejected with a parachute, landed somewhere else, and the capsule landed here. It's impossible. This story is nonsense. Total false. Don't listen to anybody, even the local people. But what is true that he came to this town, then he came here to check out this beautiful, amazing nature. He touched and sat down on this rock, and in honor of the first man in space, they dedicated this sculpture to him. By the way, since we're in Central Asia, you can find yurts. And most of them are used for as hotels. People don't necessarily live in them anymore. And over there you can see another Gagarin statue. And that's because this one was in really bad condition for many years, and the local community was pushing the government to remodel it and get it in shape. But instead, they've built that one. This is it. This is the new sculpture that they've erected here in 2000s. I think I like that one, first one that we saw better. It has some legend to it, and he came here, he visited, he sat on it. But this one is just dedication to him. It's quite weird. Why would they position two statues? Look, first one is here, second one is here. Well guys, this is the end of day one. In Kyrgyzstan, in Central Asia, we are making our way to a town called Enilchek, which is a Soviet mining town that has turned into a ghost town. And see you tomorrow.
Good morning, this is day 2. We just woke up in Barscon, in this beautiful guest house, and check out the views of Issyk-Kul. Wonderful, isn't it? At this guest house, the family has a yurt, and the yurt is mostly for ceremonial events and most likely like family gatherings and holidays and so on and so forth. On day 2, we begin with an ice-cold swim in the lake plus breakfast, and then ask the owner of the guest house to take us to an abandoned complex near the beach.
Well, we have arrived to the Cultural Scientific and spiritual center. One of the local oligarchs had a massive vision to have the old people that were wise and knew history to mingle with the young in order for them to upkeep the traditions. David the Legenda is with me, but he's a bit scared. Vamos, vamos! Let me tell you two stories about Issyk-Kul, this mystical lake. So the legend as follows: there was a ruler of this area, and supposedly he had donkey ears, and when he went to the barber, he always had to kill him so he doesn't tell the other people. One time one of the barbers went to a well and he spoke out this information and forgot to close the well, and the well began to overflow, and that's how the lake was created. What a fun story to tell to kids. Another interesting theory about this lake is that supposedly the Black Plague that killed 60% of the Eurasia originated from here. And there's even an evidence for it. And 1 year ago, in 2022, researchers found bodies and they tested their DNA and they found the plague. And that tells us that this place could have some dark history to it. I think, guys, we're almost there. Let me show you.
This was new for me in the urbex discovery, a cultural complex built on the beach that never opened its doors. And now we are the first visitors.
All these murals are depicting the Kyrgyz motifs. Unbelievable. This is the amphitheater that would seat 1,000 people, and they would watch some traditional show of some kind. Even the carvings are made in traditional style. It's impressive. In 2007, the local oligarchs decided to build this complex with the help of the government. And then unfortunately, due to multiple reasons, including that in 2010 there was a second Kyrgyz revolution that overthrew the president, the project had been abandoned and nobody had ever visited this place. That's why you can see a lot of things in perfect condition. All these beautiful murals. This is the theater, open air theater. On this particular mural you can see the storyteller of Manas, and over there, high up in the mountains, you can actually see his statue. What are your impressions of this place?
I mean, I don't like overstating things, but this might be one of the most interesting places I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything like this.
In terms of cultural stuff, right?
I mean, I don't know much about Kyrgyz culture. What is really impressive to me is just that idea of being in a place like this that was definitely built to mean something, so this definitely meant something, but then halfway through its construction, everything stopped, and you say now everything is just lying down here, everything is abandoned just for us to explore.
I think it's related to the corruption that is in Central Asia, that is left over from the post-Soviet Union. Well, part of the day 2, this was our stop, and now we're off to Karakol. That will be the last city where we will begin our journey to Enilchek. Are you comfortable, bro? Are you comfortable there?
Very much.
You're sitting like an Italian boss, bro? Do you know the Cosa Nostra doesn't exist anymore? They're all dead and arrested. I guess we found one here. He's coming with us in Kyrgyzstan, escaping the Italian government.
We had the guest house owner drop us off back in Barscon, and we waited about 20 minutes until catching another car.
So we just hitchhiked another car on the road to making our way to Karakol. So he's taken us for 100 per person, that means $1. 2-hour ride all the way to Karakol. Как вас зовут?
Я Сагын.
Sagin. You speak English?
Yes.
Yes. How are you?
Okay.
Okay. David Legenda.
Я по-английски не говорю.
О, да, такой.
How do you like this car? Is it better than Lada yesterday, or you think this is a
I
downgrade?
don't think any car will ever be able to top the Lada that we were traveling on yesterday. It's only an hour to Karakol anyway, so any car is good, really.
The road was pretty decent for the region, but at one point I thought we were going to take off like an airplane, so I had to start distracting him with the talking.
Вы когда-нибудь смотрели итальянские фильмы?
Да, конечно.
Какие?
Ну, я точно сейчас сразу сказать не смогу, какие смотрел, но какие вот. Ну, певцов знаю итальянских.
Каких?
Тото Кутуньо. Кто еще там был? А, вот это, Сабрина была. Есть много знаю еще.
So the people here are well cultured about the Western movies, music, and so on. Can you find a Westerner who knows anything about Kyrgyzstan? I highly doubt it.
As we approached Karakol, I realized that the town was pretty dull and the weather wasn't helping either. However, we managed to find a knockoff of the Four Seasons hotel chain.
Павел?
Да. Давай, приятно
Всё.
было познакомиться. Удачи.
Спасибо большое.
Спасибо.
Не за что. Давай, друг итальянин.
We got lucky because after 10 minutes of searching, we found a tour agency that gave us a great deal to Enilchek the next morning.
Well, we are searching for a car to make copies, some warm clothing, but the town seems really boring. There's the typical park, the bazaar, and panel houses. We're going to skip our city vlog from this place and we're going to see you tomorrow. Good morning, it's day 3. We're going to reach our final destination today. We have our early wake-up call. It's 7 a.m. now. We had to wake up at 6 and couldn't sleep too much because the old fart's next door. Anyways, our car is about to pick us up. It's going to be a 3 to 4 hour journey through the mountains and yeah, поехали. This is our vehicle for the journey. I guess it's a Mitsubishi 4x4. This should take us through all terrains that we're about to encounter. Here's our breakfast setup. Here's some sausage, Dutch cheese, Galansky, bread, the true way of a nomad.
Shortly after the champions breakfast, we exited Karakol and entered the Tian Shan mountain range, which divides China from Kyrgyzstan. The landscape was incredible. It was everything you can find on Google Images when typing nature. This is the ideal place for herds and the meat we all want on our table. The town that we're headed to is actually located 2,500 meters above, in the Tian Shan mountains. Look at this, we've already surpassed snow. It's below us.
What we just ran into was a military checkpoint. The reason for that, after the collapse of Soviet Union, China requested a 50-kilometer buffer zone with Kyrgyzstan. However, you can enter the zone by obtaining a permit from the Ministry of Tourism. It takes about a month. If you're interested to find out how to do it, message me on Instagram.
After the border checkpoint, we had less than an hour to go. On the way, we passed a Mad Max-inspired rally. Later in the video, we will see their exhibition in the ghost town. The road was brutal and uncomfortable. Definitely falls in the worst top 3. At this point, we were ready to explore Enilchek and find the hidden treasure.
150 kilometers and 4 hours later, we've reached the city of Enilchek. Here in the canyon of the Tian Shan mountains. And this is the welcome sign. Actually, the frame is original, but the sign in the middle has been changed. After crossing the bridge in the river, you would run into a military checkpoint, just as the one we passed by earlier. But this one functioned during the Soviet times. It wasn't a closed area like Krasnogorsk, but they still needed to know who's entering and for what reasons. Well, we came to another panoramic view to show you the scale of it. All of this valley, starting here and going all the way over there, it all contained buildings. But nowadays, if you look, half of it has been destroyed, is in ruins. Check this out. Just a few buildings, but everything else is gone. Well, anyways, let's go along this valley and explore as much as we can. So the reason why they've built this town here, because in these mountains that are surrounding us, there's a lot of minerals, very important minerals for many products. The Soviet Union said we need to take advantage of this situation and invest as much money as possible to build a town, a factory, and everything needed for the people's survival here. And here the apartment blocks. Let's go in.
Kosh Kalinze. That looks like a playroom here, but the paintings are much newer. After visiting the first colorful room, everything else seemed dull and identical. There was not much to explore. The typical units included a room, kitchen, and a bathroom. Absolutely everything is gone here. There's nothing left, not even a tile or a pan. This is it. We're standing on the old playground of basketball and football. You can see the goal, you can see the hoops, but the kids are not using. Whoever's living here, they've managed to build a new court.
C'è questo campo da calcio in condizione perfetta con cui sto giocando adesso.
Come on, Italian.
Con Pavel. E veramente
Bambino!
Here are a few more buildings. It looks like this is exactly the thing that the driver was telling us about. Taking the bricks from the older buildings and trying to build something newer.
Здрасте. А магазин есть?
Есть, закрыто, хозяин.
А сколько тут семей живут?
40 семей есть.
А вы тут чем занимаетесь? Давно тут живете?
Я живу здесь и работаю.
Всю жизнь?
Да,
А эта школа тут есть?
да, есть.
А университет, колледж или что?
Нет, тут только школа есть.
А вы где учились?
Я здесь
То-
до 4 класс учил.
И все.
И там вниз в Караколе учился.
Мы только что приехали с Каракола.
Да,
Да.
и учился.
Интересное место. Спасибо, спасибо.
Most important, you might wonder, how do the people live here? How do they get the electricity? During the Soviet Union, when the road was built that we drove on, they built an electrical. It's been well maintained for the people that live here, and also they get water from the rivers nearby, which is quite easy. And the heat during the winter comes from the firewood. Because it was Muslim holiday, everyone was out of town, and we did not meet anyone else. What I found here is the most impressive architectural looking building. Look at this entrance. It reminds me of a cathedral, Catholic cathedral. They even had this glass that they use in the church. Thanks to Google, I found out this was the opposite to a church. In fact, it was a bathhouse. As you can see, there's blue tile and window glass laying all over the floor. Also, in the Soviet times, religion was forbidden, so this could not be a church. And if you turn left, there's two chimneys on the sides. I wonder what that is. Yeah, this is definitely some industrial building. Everywhere you go here, there's entrances to the underground, so. The more buildings I entered, the more I became disappointed. They only contain concrete walls, animal fur, and waste. The photos we viewed before coming here are from 2010. Now most of it is gone. However, it was too late to turn back. So I told our driver, let's continue to explore. I'm standing in the middle section of the valley. We were over there where you can see the big tall buildings. Now we're in the factory section, because here the buildings look quite strange, right? Definitely not a livable type of place. In this town, specialists from all of Soviet Union will be attracted to come here because the salary was quite high and also was financed directly from Moscow. Therefore, the conditions here were really, really high. And all the Kyrgyz people wanted to work here as well. It would be considered as a privilege. Here you go. This is something more identifiable. A fire station. 4 or 5 trucks here. Wonder had a place to fix them. But nothing is left. Not even symbols, not even murals, frescoes, friezes, paintings. And we have arrived to the last part of this valley. On this particular building, you can see in some of the balconies the original doors. Wow, wow, wee, wow. The condition of this place is pretty good. Oh, and there's Soviet cars upside down. Now we found something interesting finally. A graveyard of Soviet cars. Шестерка, копейка, upside down. Bukhanka. This is super old, I have no idea what that is. Wow. I'm surprised they didn't take this for metal recycling.
We just figured out what is this cars upside down. It's actually part of the rally that it was taking place here this whole week. The one we saw the cars that were made in the style of Mad Max movie. Here's a Volga. There was a party here last night. You see, they even put some stickers on it. This is like a Burning Man here, but car edition. Well, this is it for this living quarters. And there's one more place that we're going to stop by. Так вы говорили то, что вы тут жили в Энильчике?
Да.
Сколько лет?
С 90 по 93.
3 года всего лишь.
Четыре.
Что-нибудь помните с того времени?
Да?
Как тут было?
Там вообще здесь, сейчас вообще по-другому, так давай по-другому. Здесь говоришь, здесь средняя школа была,
Ага.
садики, все работало. Больница была.
Ну а какие сейчас у вас как сказать,
Сейчас
мнения?
как призрак, все уже.
Призрак, да. Конец. Well, this is the final place on our journey. Is the airport. To the left, you can see the terminal, and here is a long runway that was used for the cargo planes. Well, this wasn't my favorite type of a journey, especially the end. The final destination wasn't so impressive as I expected it to be. Compared to the cultural complex yesterday, that was much more interesting. Anyways, thanks for coming on this journey with me, and I hope you guys stick around and I can produce something much better next time. Until next episode, Nomads.